This is the Investor Connect podcast program. I'm Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of this show in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, family offices, private equity, and many other investors for early stage and growth companies. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, this is Hall Martin with Investor Connect. Today we're here with Mary Long-Irwin of the Northern Ontario Angels. Mary, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So what was your background before investing in early stage companies? What did you do before this?
Well, I had three basic jobs. The first one, I had my own business for about 10 years. And then I sold it. And then I I taught at the college for 3 years. But after that, I went into private sector lending for small businesses. And I did that for about 10 years. And then I was the CEO and president of the Chamber of Commerce and provided a lot of advocating or just a lot of work throughout Northern Ontario. I advocated for a number of issues and did that for about 10 years. And now I've moved to small business and looking at angel investment and have been doing that for 10 years.
That's so great. So what excites you right now?
Well, right now, probably a little bit of a challenge because of what we're going through. But what I found really exciting was the number of startups and the number of technology companies and technology growth companies that we have right here in Northern Ontario. That, and then also the dedication, support, and the mentoring that we get from our angels. We have a very strong angel group who are right there. It's not just about the money. They provide smart money and put in a lot of hours and working with the company. In many cases, the investors have actually trained the company founders to become company managers.
Well, that's great. So you have a very active group there and a very skilled one as well.
We do. We're very fortunate. We're in smaller communities across the north. And I think for the most part, the angel investors looks at it not as just an investment, but also as a way for them to be part of growing the economy.
Well, that's great. I think angel investors love to get involved with the economy and helping grow their community, and sound like they're well on the way to doing that there.
That's right. Yes.
Well, great. So you meet a lot of investors. What's your advice for them about investing in startups? What do you tell them to do before they write that first check?
I get them to really meet with the owner. And I tell them many times, you can do due diligence, which I'm not, saying that you shouldn't be doing. Of course you should. But at the end of the day, you have to see whether or not this is a right fit for you. If you can work with that company founder, sometimes the company founder is looking just for money, but not for advice. And if that's not what you want to do, then you might want to look at a company who really can learn from your advice and who wants to work with you. So at the end of the day, I always tell them you have to do what feels right. You have to trust your gut because you are developing a partnership with them.
That's right. You're in these deals for quite a long time. And so you want to make sure you're in with the right group for sure. So what's your advice for people that are running startups? What do you tell them to do before they launch that business?
First of all, if you are going to look for investments and you need an investor, be brutally honest. You have to understand that the investors, along with a number of other programs or whatever it is in place that you are seeking, are all going to be doing their due diligence. And once an investor knows you've lied, they're gone. They're out the door. So be brutally honest. You may have some hiccups in your personal line of credit or your credit history. Be honest about it. We can work through some of the problems, but what we can't work through is dishonesty.
That's a good point. So let's talk about the state of investing for angels. How do you see the industry evolving and what changes do you see coming up for them?
I believe that we're going to continue to have growth in technologies. I believe, especially where we are in North America, we can't always compete when it becomes to, say, salaries or the workforce, the labor. So I think we need to become leaders in technology, whether it's med technology artificial intelligence, whatever it is, we need to be leaders. And I believe that for the most part, the governments are starting to recognize that as well, that we need to take that sort of leadership, and they're willing to support in the small business growth.
Great. And in these COVID-19 times, what do you think the challenge is for angels, and what do you see changes coming there?
Well, right now, we're finding that some of the new deals, unless they're something that deals with COVID-19, for example, producing hand sanitizers or making and developing and manufacturing masks, or somewhere in the communications technology, those are still very promising and doing very well. The other ones, if it's a current company and they need support from the investor during this time, the investor that has already invested typically will continue to provide that support. And that part we're really grateful for. But some of the new ones, it can be, we've had some files in the hotel industry and tourism, and it's just being put on hold for right now, which is a challenge. And then I spend probably the most part of my days with company founders, talking to them, because a number of them are new startups. They have great staff. They don't want to lay off the staff. They're scared. They're not sure where to turn. And again, we're very fortunate that our federal government has decided to step up with some of the funding. So if you are losing your job, at least you know you're going to get paid for the next 4 months. And the company is trying to do whatever they can to hold on to staff, because staff is an integral part of having growth within your company. And so we're looking at some of the challenges, but as well as the challenges, we've closed 4 deals in the last couple of weeks. Although they all had to do with COVID-19, there wasn't a shortage of that money. Yes, some of the investors are also a bit nervous. They want to see where it all falls out and where they're going to be. But some of them recognize this is the time where they can make up some of the money for their losses, make up for those losses that they may have had to deal with on the stock markets.
Very good. So let's talk about your group. As general, aside from COVID-19, what's your investment thesis? And maybe you can name a few startups that fit that thesis that you funded.
Well, we've been very fortunate. Again, we've done about 350 deals over the last 10 years. And in those deals, the investments put in about $140 million. So it's been positive. And we look at all deals. However, preference is given again to technology, med tech, whatever it is. But also they look at a community if somebody has a great idea to maybe revitalize the downtown core. They look at those. So it's a lot of what personally the investor wants to see in growth or change within their communities. Because we're funded for Northern Ontario, we typically look at deals in Northern Ontario. We have looked at some of the others, and if they are outside of Northern Ontario, we encourage the companies to locate in Northern Ontario, because you're able to get some additional non-repayable grants from the province or the feds if you are located in the north. So we take a look. Our investments are primarily, I would say 99% are in Northern Ontario, 60% are in technology, and the rest of it's a mixed bag of everything from manufacturing to developing a hotel or developing a new area in a downtown core.
Great. Well, so aside from COVID-19, what are the challenges your startups face in launching these days? If you had to pick 1 or 2 key things they face, what is that?
I would say probably the challenge is, for some, is finding an investor. We look at the deals, but having said that, maybe out of every 10 deals that come to us, the investors might invest in 1, maybe 2. So that's a challenge. And it's primarily because they haven't done their homework. Another challenge for the startup, for the founder, is, I'm going to use an expression that I'm not in favor of, but the founder is very married to the idea. believes they know it in and out, believes it's $1 million idea, and there's no coaching them. And when you have somebody that's have very strong views like that, typically the investor doesn't want to invest. The investor wants to work with somebody who can move with the tides, who can understand and utilize the advice that's given, not just from the investor, but from all over. So that has always been a challenge. And for the investor, sometimes they find it challenging when they do have when they invest in a company that has a brilliant idea, but is not moving fast enough or not meeting the timelines. That makes the investor very nervous. If you say by such and such a date, you will have had this sort of testing done, you will have this manufactured, you will have this, and none of that's in place, it makes them very nervous when you say, oh, I'm a little bit behind. Can I have some more funding for our monthly costs? And that's always a challenge as well.
Very good. Well, you see a lot of different applications and sectors, and
yes,
either within the COVID-19 economy or outside. What would you say are good opportunities for investors to pursue in this time frame?
I think, again, some technology-based companies that have learned from this experience, companies that understand that maybe they need to retool their plant or that can move fast, companies that can move and switch gears very quickly. Investors love those. Investors really like to see that somebody is focused on the overall economy, and can make those changes different and quickly. It's not like we want to be, for example, like a very large bricks and mortar store. It could take them months before they can change into what's going on. And if a small business can do that quickly, that is of value, a benefit.
Great. Well, in the last few minutes that we have here today, what else should we cover that we haven't?
I think we've covered it all. Again, I just want to repeat, be honest with the investor.
That's a good motto to live by. So how best for listeners to get back in touch with you?
I believe my website is up there, our website, northernontarioangels.ca, and all my contact information is there, or you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Great. We'll add those to the show notes. I want to thank you for joining us today and hope to have you back for a follow-up soon.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Alti Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for the basis of investment decisions.